We talk through the Moorbach.
Welcome everybody to this edition of Beers with Bill. It's my great pleasure to welcome back Erin Broadfoot, the owner and head brewmaster at Little Beast Brewing. Erin, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me back, Bill.
Yeah. You were so you had a lot of damage done then when that with that tornado went through all of the regions.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nothing. Yeah, like I said, I got lucky compared to a lot of people, so I'm not going to complain. But it was an experience for sure.
Yeah. So you're going to start with Moorbach because that's the lightest one that I have out tonight. You want to talk to me a little bit about that?
Sure. So Moorbach is a Czech style pils. So I love Pilsners. I've always loved Pilsners, and Pilsner Urquell has always been one of the staples in my fridge. So, and I'm going to apologize in advance if I trip up some words and I finally got hit with that stupid virus a couple months ago, and the brain fog I've had since is epic and legendary, and I forget the bizarrest words at the bizarrest times. But yeah, so Pilsner Urquell has always been one of my favorite beers, kind of a go-to that's always in the fridge. So this one was definitely very heavily modeled after that. Similar water profile, 3 Saaz additions, all Pils malt, little tiny touch of carafoam. So really easy drinking, bit soft, but you know, that firm balanced bitterness, and then that nice little earthy, mellow, slightly sweet hit that you would get from that traditional Czech Pils.
I've always enjoyed Pilsners when you make them.
Thanks. We're sticklers for they definitely lager, they definitely sit, they get their time, and we don't filter, but we do hit with biofine to try to get that clarity. And there's just nothing more satisfying, especially these days with a nice clear beer, because you just don't see them very often now. So
yeah. But there's a lot of people that are like Pilsners you don't see as much. There's a lot of people doing lagers now.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to see some nice easy drinking beers come through. I can't do high alcohol I do 1 or 2 and I'm written off. So yeah, I saw something about the Czech. We use the yeast we use is escarpment. We use Isar yeast from escarpment.
Okay.
So it's a German lager yeast.
Find that that's the one that works best with the water, or that's just the one that you like using?
I haven't played around too much just because for that one, I do like the flavor profile, but it's also a really great flocking yeast. And since we don't filter, I want something that I know is going to fall out well and drop out. So it was a good match for us from escarpment.
So you've had a lot happening since the last time you were on the show.
Yeah, I have. I'm trying to remember the date of the last time I was on. Was it before? Was it before the stories?
Back in October.
Okay.
Last year.
So it was before. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So before.
Okay. Yeah, it's been a busy few months. It feels like a lifetime.
I can imagine. How do you the new word that I'm using, how do you unplug now with everything that's going on?
Yeah, it's funny. I think there was a little period of time there where I wasn't, even when I thought I was. It got a little crazy. So you're trying to keep the brewery going, and we all kind of looked forward to the end of COVID as when we'd get everything back. I don't think any of us were anticipating this massive inflation and everything else that kind of bit us at the end of COVID to kind of throw us into another tailspin. So work was busy, and with the stories and then all the opportunities that came my way from that, and then just trying to manage the fallout from the stories. So there wasn't a lot of unplugging, but I'm starting to find moments to paint again. And I'm starting to feel, I guess, a little bit more like myself again now, in terms of just not feeling quite as like I'm spinning circles 24 hours a day. It's kind of hard to describe what those few months were like.
I can imagine. I've not been down that road, but I can imagine trying to find a way to be grounded.
Yeah, it was, I went in kind of prepared, but I think it's just one of those things that until you're in the midst of it, you have no idea what you're stepping into. But the people around me, Ash and Brienne and Ren, who had kind of been through it on the ground the first time, they knew what I was in for. So they were ready to kind of jump up and help kind of keep things together when it got wild. So I'm very grateful for the people around me. It definitely solidified some amazing friendships and some amazing connections with some spectacular people.
Well, that's great that you've got such a solid support network around you.
Yeah, very fortunate.
We're 2 years into the pandemic, and I'm curious what your opinion is on how the craft beer industry has changed in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting seeing where we wind up in a few months. There's a lot of rumors floating around. I know breweries are starting to pop up for sale now. I saw a new one go up for sale last week. It's definitely a tougher market. So I think we're going to watch everything tighten up, and, being on top of your game is going to be important. I think it's interesting seeing some of the beer trends shift. Like, obviously you still have the hazies and the slushies that people love, but it's nice seeing this other shift to lagers and lower alcohol beers and other things happening. So there's definitely some different stuff going on right now, which it'll be interesting to watch the next year unfold, I think.
It definitely will be. It definitely will
Mhm.
be. We had Rob on from Short Finger, and I asked him, and he said, "I'm not even sure I'm in the craft beer industry anymore. I'm not a brewer, I'm a marketer."
Yeah. I know, and I'm a terrible marketer. I'm so bad at marketing, and right now it's a slightly different game. It's interesting.
Has your risk tolerance changed?
My risk tolerance?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. In some ways, I guess yes. Like, I'm definitely doing some styles and stuff I didn't think I would do, and definitely catering a little bit more to making sure that I have some safety around me. But I think, if anything, in terms of how outspoken I am and some of the things I'm biting off, I'm probably taking on way more risk than I ever have. But so far, it hasn't bit me in the ass too much. So we'll see where that goes.
Okay. I was going to say that was a sort of two-level question from the brewery
Mhm.
perspective and from the outspoken work that you do.
Yeah, I will say, like, my brewery, I love my brewery now. I love the crowd that comes to my brewery. I love the people. Like, we definitely have, and people know, the people who aren't welcome at the brewery know they aren't welcome. And the people who want a safe place where they know they're going to be protected have definitely found the brewery. So in terms of business and what I want to see around me, that's been amazing. I do have to watch. We have a lot more security cameras up. There's definitely been, there's other concerns and other things that's brought to me. And even today, like, I've been deleting comments off my Instagram today, just to people. But I don't know. I don't think it's hurt business. So it's definitely brought around a crowd of people that I love spending my time with. So there's that.
Yeah. And you've reintroduced a lot of things that you were doing pre-COVID. The food
Yeah.
trucks are in there. The games are back. You've always been a welcoming space for families
Mhm.
and young kids. So
Yeah, no, it's nice seeing something shift back. Having record day back was like the best, because it's just one of my absolute favorite events. It brings out the best crowd of people. I don't know why, but it just always does. And it's so much fun. And it was so neat to see the brewery so packed. I missed a question that popped on before, but this one, the record day. So we have vendors in. So we work with Bowmanville Record and Trunk, or whatever they call themselves, the Bowmanville Record. They just started up. We bring in like 4 or 5 vendors. People can crate crawl all day. There's food. People drink beer, play music, and it's a lot of fun. So
yeah. The question you missed is Terry and Emma, and I'll prompt you. You don't need to worry about that part. Okay.
perfect.
They're curious about have you had to try to hire lately, and if so, has it been as difficult in finding people as it has been in other industries?
I haven't hired in 8 months. To be honest, I'm keeping a real tight ship right now. It's tough right now. Like, I'm not so proud that I can't admit it. It's really hard at the moment. So we're not spending any dollars we don't have to spend. I actually just got rid of our distributor and I'm doing all of our deliveries myself right now, which isn't so bad to get some podcast time. So, but I think my hiring situation is probably different than other people's. I have some resumes and some people that are kind of on a wait list in case I hire again, because some people who've had really shitty experiences in the industry that say they'll come back if I hire. So I have got a little group of people that if I can, I'm going to bring on.
That's good to have. There's
Yeah,
a
it's
lot
nice.
of people are struggling right now. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
But it's funny. I don't know. It's hard. Like, on one hand, like, I have a friend who runs a cafe and you don't make a ton of money, and like she couldn't pay above minimum wage. Like,
Yeah.
so she has to tap into the student market and she has to go that way because it's just not. But there's also a lot of employers out there who think because it's post COVID that you should be able to get away with more. I feel like in terms of how you're treating employees or how understanding people need to be or what they're willing to pay. I know that's not everybody, but there's a lot of crappy treatment in the industry and the food industry in general. So I think, on top of it just being hard right now, people who left the industry and realized what they were dealing with, they're not going to come back if they're not offered something that's livable and decent to come back to.
Yeah, and I'm inclined to think there's a lot of people that left the industry who are never going to come back.
I think you're right. I'm losing one of my best friends. I can't say who. I'm losing one of my best friends soon. So like, she's going to, there's a lot of people that won't be coming back. So
yeah, it's unfortunate, but yes. Which one should we try next? I've got really good friends.
Okay.
Wait So Long.
Okay.
And Strange Aeons.
Yeah, we'll do that one last for sure. Or actually, Wait So Long would be last. I would do Really Good Friends next.
Okay. You want to talk to me a little bit about that one? Because this is your collab, is it not?
It's my which, sorry?
I was thinking it was a collab, but I might have that wrong in my head.
Yeah, I missed the word. I also, when I had COVID, I blew an eardrum. So like, I was already half deaf from all the metal concerts, and now I drive my kids nuts. All I ever say is what over and over and over again. So, someone's yelling for a dog. So that one, Really Good Friends, was a collab. We've been doing it for a long time with Robin LeBlanc and Ren Navarro. We did it originally. It wasn't even Pride Month. We don't only do it during Pride. It's a year-round thing. I actually typically try not to release it in June just to prove a point, because that's me. It's an all Nelson Sauvin hop saison. So the name comes from, and we're going to do the other name that we're going to do in the future, because now nobody can tell me not to. But originally the beer was supposed to be called Queer AF. And my business partner, who is still in the business at the time, did not think this was a good idea. And a lot of other people around me did not think this was a good idea. So we ended up backing off of that and choosing something a little bit more subtle. So Really Good Friends comes from when Robin was writing a beer article, and she wrote about her girlfriend in it. And before they published it, they made her change it to Really Good Friend so that she wouldn't offend the viewership. This was like 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So this is ridiculous. And obviously the beats are a play on Ernie and Bert, who then came out as gay like the month after we released the beer, which was pretty awesome. So we donate money every time. We've donated to PFLAG Durham. We've donated to Pride Durham. And this time and the time before, we're doing Rainbow Railroad, which is an amazing organization that helps bring LGBTQ folks out of dangerous situations. The beer itself, so our typical Saison yeast, it is Old World. So a little bit of pepper, a little bit of spice, a little bit estery. And then the Nelson Sauvin hops, it's my absolute favorite hop in any beer. So you get that lemon and that pith and a touch of dankness and that Sauvignon Blanc flavor. And it just comes together so nice. And we're a little softer in the carb, just to let that soft little pillow come through a little bit more than most Saisons. And yeah, I think it's probably one of my favorite beers to come out of the brewery.
I know, I've always enjoyed it. Cheers.
Thank you. There's definitely a few Saisons coming out of the brewery.
A few, yeah. It's what happens when you love things like that, isn't it?
Yeah. It's been fun. The fermentation, oh God, ask as technical as you want, unless you're not ready. Me. We push this one a little bit. So this one we let rise to 25. Thank you. I appreciate that. That means they're my favorite style in the world. So
Yep.
I'm drinking the next one that's going to come out. So it's our first green bottle one. So I'm pretty excited.
And that was going to bring my next question anyways. I've noticed you've moved a lot of your beers into can now. Mm-hmm. Is that going to continue and you're going to move away from bottles?
For the most part. So the cans are just actually more affordable at this point. And with the way I'm running the business, it's nice to have the canners come in, get it done, and leave. It saves me so much time. And I think at this point, money, bottles, glass is also prohibitively expensive right now. COVID and then what happened in the Ukraine, it's wild. So even the Changeling will be switching to cans soon, but any of our mixed fermentations, so Brett will be in bottles because the canner that I use will not can Brett. And then a couple of other, all of barrel aged will still be in bottles, as well as this one that's about to come out.
Yeah, we've heard that from a couple other brewers. It's like everything but the Brett, they will not touch it.
Well, it's funny too, though, because diastatic is actually way more dangerous than Brett, but people will do the diastaticus. So I think it's probably because people don't fully understand that. So I just gotta keep my mouth shut and walk away from that one.
I was gonna say, happy to have them canning, so I'll just leave it alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Derek's curious, is the green bottle is special to the beer that you're gonna put in it?
Yeah, it's nostalgia and just sentiment. I mean, Saison du Pont was the first beer I fell in love with, and that skunky kind of sat in the sun hit that it used to get. So the idea too is you can take this bottle. It's a super traditional, like my first true traditional Saison that I've done out of the brewery. And if you want that old school DuPont hit, you can just let that guy sit out in the sun in those green bottles and you'll get it.
Okay. Now I've lost where I am in my questions for you.
Welcome to my life.
Well, I can appreciate what you're going through, because I had that after my surgery. It was like I could have a conversation and all of a sudden I couldn't find a word. I couldn't even describe what I was looking for. I could picture it, but I couldn't even describe it. It got better, but it took a while.
That's frustrating.
Yes, it is. I know what I wanted to ask you. You've done a number of interviews, and I'm starting to ask this of everybody. Is there a question you wish people would ask you that most people sort of miss and never ask?
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there's a ton. And then when you start thinking directly about it, I don't know. I wonder, you know what, I'll keep that in mind as we talk and then kind of go from there. I think I'm pretty, at this point, I think I've been asked almost anything. And I'm very much an open book. So I'll talk about pretty much anything. So a question I get asked all the time that I'm sick of answering. You know what the answer to that is? And it's on two different sides. I love talking about being a woman in the industry. I love talking about my experiences, or, how to extrapolate from the experience of being, and when I say a marginalized population, I am the least marginalized of all the marginalized, but of a marginalized population. What I hate is when it gets reduced in interviews where there's that super tokenism of, I'm talking to a girl, so what's it like being a girl in the industry? And they want the super surface. And then what would you say to other women that want to come into the industry? I hate that question. The first time I was asked, I'm like, oh, this is a good one. I get asked it constantly and I hate it. I'd say the same thing I say to anybody, aside from telling like my super cynical, trust your instincts and don't take shit. It's very much it's those lightweight cop-out questions so that you can fit in the tokenism of having a woman on the chair.
Oh, I hope you don't feel that way about me, because this is not tokenism.
Love
the fact. No, because I love the fact that you met me after I had met your ex-part, like the former partner from the business. And he had agreed to be on the show. And then of course you guys went your own way and you didn't even miss a beat. It was like, yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah, and it's funny. And no, and these are honestly, doing the talks with you is one of my favorite groups. They're always very interactive and great. And I love chatting with you and you're awesome. So yeah, and it's funny because when that talk came through and I'd heard good things and I wanted to be part of it, but as things have come more to light since him leaving and more stories have come out, he didn't like the fact that I got attention because of my gender and with my experience. So I was getting to the point where I was just shutting myself out from media to keep things calm. And I was kind of disappointed not to do the show. So it was kind of cool that I got to in the end.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
By the way, I love the hair.
Mm.
What was the
Yes.
kids' reaction when you did that?
Well, this was the haircut I used to have. I always used to have this. And then I kind of was like, I should try being a female and doing that. And it just didn't suit me. It just is not. So when I shaved the sides back off and came home, my kids were thrilled. They're like, you're back.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, I feel like me again. I hated the long hair so much. It just doesn't suit me. And when you're always sweating in a brewery, it did not work for me. So
no, and that there's that romance of owning a brewery and all the fun and everything, and then there's the reality of what you've been through with the startup and all the things that, oh, we didn't know that, and oh, we didn't know that. What do you mean I need this?
Yeah, it's been a ride.
Oh, I'm sure it has. I'm gonna ask you Terry's question. I know we've asked you this one before.
Mhm.
What beer have you tried that literally has made you go, damn it, I wish I'd made this beer?
Well, I mean, obviously, I still, every single time I go back to Boisson de Higgs from Hopfen Stark. Oh my God, I love that beer. And I finally got back to Montreal for the first time in ages. I guess it was last month. And I still love that beer so much. And Pinnacle by Dunham is just so good. One I had that I've never had before. I think it was the first time they released it that knocked my socks off. And it made me go, oh, maybe I'll try something a little bit more like this. Was Sawdust, Limberlost, and it was the mixed fermentation barrel aged IPA they did, and it was fantastically balanced, just perfectly balanced.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you got back to Montreal. Such a great city.
It was so good. I found this fabulous blue cheese and I ate like an entire container of it on my own in one night and regretted my life for like 2 days, but it was so good.
Yes. My wife and I miss that fact that our daughter no longer lives there because we used to take the trip towards Quebec City along the river on both sides. So we just stop at every fromagerie that we could find.
Yeah. It's fun. I don't know why, and it's just always been a quirk of mine, is I get very intimidated in areas where I don't speak the language. I don't know if it's because I don't hear well or just because I'm incredibly socially awkward. Like I can, during an interview or something, I can kind of click on, but in person in a busy place, I'm horribly awkward. So I'd like to go in and point and run, but as silly as it sounds, it took me some guts to actually work up the courage to chat with one of, the specialists at one of the cheese shops and ask for advice and pick through things and find something that special that I would love. And it was just realized my computer unplugged itself and it's going to die. So we're going to fix that. But it was nice getting some advice. Here, I'm just going to plug this back into the wall.
Ouch. Just going to break for a commercial, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy your beer.
I was trying to figure out when my screen was going fuzzy. I'm like, that's not right. So, but yeah, those markets are amazing.
Yes. And the people there go out of their way to make everyone feel welcome.
Yeah, I got some beautiful cheese. He figured out what I was looking for and got some excellent stuff.
Who is your favorite new up and coming brewer that you've tried, or have you had a chance to try new beers?
I don't think I've had a lot of new stuff lately. I don't even know who's up and coming anymore these days. Like it's the industry is, I don't go anywhere. I kind of get what's dropped off at my front door and trying to think of who's open. Oh, Farm League. I really
Yeah,
enjoyed some of the stuff I got from Farm League, and Mike and Cass are just great. So it's
yeah.
nice when good people are making really good beer. So we're actually collabing with them this month. I need to email them back. I completely forgot. And then there was somebody else that's, I'm looking forward to trying some of the In the Water, Still the Water something in Toronto. Yes, something in the water. That's what it's called. So Andy has a pretty good pedigree. So I'm looking forward to trying some of those beers.
Yep. Eric's curious the feedback you got on the garlic beer with Third Moon.
Oh man, what an experience that was. Some people loved it. Like people that were looking for a taste experience and wanted something different. Got received amazingly. We did it at Queen of Craft for the cheese section. We used that beer, and one person paid $70 for 3 bottles in a raffle just to get the last 3 bottles, which blew my mind and was super cool. But I don't go on Untapped like ever. My sanity stop. But we watched Manny on Untapped just because, and it was so funny because you get the people that are like, this is such a neat flavor experience, or the people that know me and Bebo and already had like respect or, fond feelings would be like, these two are going to make a good beer. And then it's okay that I'm swearing, right? You get the odd, what the fuck did I just drink? Where people were like, this is the worst thing I've ever put in my mouth. Like it was a very polarizing beer. It was fun. Yeah.
Well, I can imagine it was. So Derek just said he just realized he hadn't drank the bottle that he got. Would it be worse for the wear at this point, or would it still be okay?
Actually, because there is Brett in it, we found that as the Brett slowly started working through, that farmhouse funk element was really, really, really nice. So I've got a couple bottles put aside too, because I really liked how it evolved. I liked when everything mellowed and blended just a little bit better.
That's
But
great.
yeah, when we that day we added the garlic and I was there and Max and Bebo and we blended it and we're putting it in and we're like, ooh, it's really strong. So it was good.
Here to keep the vampires away.
Yeah, no kidding.
Which one am I trying next?
I would do, if you're gonna do, I would probably drink Strange Eons before I would drink Wait So Long. But if you're gonna have any other subtle beers, I would do it before Strange Eons.
I'll go to Strange Eons.
Okay. So this is where we dug in and we made a damn hazy. So everybody wants a hazy beer, and we were kind of doing them, but John, my business partner, was the IPA brewer. So in my past, I'd only ever really brewed West Coast IPAs. I never really went outside of that. It was what I did. I did Belgians. So this was my first real true stab at a full-on hazy. It's been really well received, which is cool. So Mosaic and Citra, so cheat code hops. You get a full soft mouthfeel, the kind of that pillowiness, and then big dank hits from the Citra, and then some peach, and there is papaya and passion fruit, and just a good fruity, juicy kind of hit from those hops. Yeah, it is different. So when John did it a couple of years ago, it was West Coast, whereas I took this, it's a completely different recipe. I kind of put my spin on everything. Only because I feel like, I guess it would kind of be like any chef. If you're going to brew it and you're going to make it, I wanted it to be true to me. I didn't want to just take a recipe and just try to go ahead. So, and it was kind of fun getting to play outside my comfort zone and see if I could do something outside of my own comfort box.
Yep.
Same name, art. Really liked the art. And I had sworn I was never going to do another double IPA as long as I lived. And I was trying to figure out what to brew, and I was looking at the ingredients I had, and that week I didn't want to buy new ingredients. And Kier had said, do the double IPA, and I kind of laughed. I'm like, I'm not doing a double IPA. And then I brewed a double IPA.
Famous last words.
I know there will never be a triple IPA. This is it. This is as big as they get.
Okay, I'll come down and help you do the triple. What day do you want to do it?
On that mash time, you regret your life.
That's
Ugh.
basically what everyone says when they do it.
Yeah, I'll do a quad one day, maybe. Just no triple IPA.
So David's curious.
Mhm.
It's been said that the East Coast mimics the West Coast by 2 or 3 years. Is that your estimation of it?
You know what? I have no idea. I don't follow trends as tightly, I think, as some people do. Like I kind of watch what's going on and but I guess historically I wouldn't even necessarily know which trend started and what end. I don't know if that's a terrible thing, but history's never been my thing.
Well, you don't open up your own brewery to follow trends.
Some people do if you want to be hype, and there's nothing wrong with that too. Yeah. But yeah, I guess East Coast, West Coast, so it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah. What's been the hardest thing to overcome in the last couple of months?
Money. Inflation is wild. Like we've probably seen a 40% increase in cost of goods sold, and you cannot hike your prices that fast.
No.
You just can't. And customers are also dealing with real life. Like if you commute, you're paying more money in gas. Like we've lost customers to life costs. So it's money is scary. Like it's terrifying. So that's the biggest thing we're dealing with right now. And as they say, you can be a passionate brewer who loves beer, or you can be a businessman. And I'm definitely the former, not the latter. So learning real quick how to kind of analyze those books and figure your way around things to make the best of a situation. So, and hoping the government figures their shit out at some point.
Yeah, that's probably a good point. The government, the central bank.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's wild right now. And the way the government is clawing back from small businesses at the moment is disgusting. And at least I don't have food. People who are the restaurants that are dealing with food too, I don't know how they're doing it right now, to be honest. It's awful.
Yeah, and even pre-COVID, because that's where half the world I was in, cost of food was going up way faster than we could pass anything on.
Yeah.
Beer wasn't so bad. It was sort of little tiny incremental things. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, we got to put prices up.
And I got kicked out of sorry.
No, go ahead.
I got kicked out of a food review group the other day because somebody was coming down on a restaurant for shrinking their portions. And I gave them a piece of my mind and I seem to be blocked. So
they don't understand it. They don't correlate that your home costs are going up. Imagine what it's like at a restaurant.
Well, that's what I said. I'm like, have you grocery shopped lately? Like, what did you pay for beef? Are you kidding me? Like, what did you pay for chicken? You can't expect a meal that lasts you 3 meals to cost what it did 3 years ago. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's I lived through the one in the 80s. It was scary then, and this one's even scarier for me right now.
Yeah. I'll bet it's a situation. So it's got small business has been amazing. And I will say, the stark contrast to the government and the banks and how disgustingly greedy they're being right now is how incredibly well small business is supporting each other and just watching communication. And like, we work in circles, my suppliers, my labels, my packaging equipment, and you touching base with me about, how do you need to spread out these? And I'll touch base with my licensees and make sure that they can make what they need from certain weekends to be able to pay me. And it's kind of incredible watching how it's all the people that are kind of struggling at the bottom and how much they support each other. So, which is why I've stopped selling to places like Jack Astor's and stuff. And I'm only working with small businesses right now.
Yep. So where would I find your beer around Whitby?
Whippy is like Durham region. I sell more beer to the Kitchener Waterloo area than I do in the Whippy area. So in Whippy, I'm at Butchie's. I'm always at Butchie's.
Yeah.
I love Andrea. I love Ren. So
Yeah.
we're always working together. I just went back on tap at 3-6 Kitchen. Full disclosure, they got rid of Man Antler. So we started working together again. So I'm back on tap over there.
Yeah.
Brew Wizards, Jesse's the best, and that little cafe is just the freaking best. So, but I think that's pretty much it locally.
Yeah. So KW.
Yeah, KW, and I'm terrible with geography, but I'm out there almost every week. This week I'm dropping back off at Arabella. Arabella goes through tons of our beer. Princess Cafe. I'm in there all the time. I absolutely love Mark. Like, he's just the best human being ever. White Rabbit. That's not where OG. I think OG is in Hamilton, or OG's out there. Old Galt. Old Galt is Cambridge. So I'm out there quite a bit. It's a great beer area. The Woolly and Guelph.
Yeah, the Woolly and Guelph.
And good people.
Yep.
Yeah, I spend more time socializing and drinking in that area than I do my own area. If I could pick up Little Beasts and move it to Waterloo, I would.
You hear that, guys? Okay, we got to do a little GoFundMe.
It's on my computer. Yeah, lots of good people, lots of good beer too. Some really killer breweries out that way. There's just so much good.
Yeah.
And she was a great commercial agent. Amazing.
Yeah, David's a commercial agent, all right?
Hey, if you can't sell yourself, no one's going to sell you.
Absolutely.
Sell yourself,
absolutely. So. Just ignore that comment, ladies and gentlemen. That is a blatant self-interest statement. I will talk to David after the show. What do you think is the one thing the craft beer industry could be doing better right now? That's a lead-in question for you.
Yeah, inclusivity. It's really sad, to be honest, and I try not to be. A couple of years ago, I feel like I was almost too much of an optimist. It was always glasses full. Like, I was a realist, but also just super pleasant about everything always. And like, I've had to check my cynicism lately because, and it's funny. It's really neat being in this spot and really seeing it from Ren's point of view. I mean, not fully, because I'm not a queer Black woman, but it's really frustrating, just this whole divide. And I suppose it's every business, but I'm of course going to see it more in beer, where people think, it's business and politics, and it's not politics, it's human rights. And if you have a platform and you're being listened to, you should be vocal, and you should be showing where you support, and you should be a decent human. And it's kind of sad seeing the lukewarm response to everything and the performatism. I understand how hard it is to get past performatism. I totally get that completely. It's hard, but like, just do better. I don't know. It's really disappointing.
Yeah. I thought by this point we'd be much better than where we are. I guess maybe I was far too optimistic. No, really. I look back to the way the world was when I was a teenager, and I actually thought the changes were okay. We're moving in a forward direction. It's all going to be positive. We're finally going to get rid of a lot of these really white supremacist macho idiocy that we've had, and life is, the next generation is going to be that much further advanced, and it's like we step backwards.
Yeah, and now we're like really dialing it backwards. Like, I can't even figure out and I mean, people are like, it's just the US, but it's not. If you look at what's happening in our political system right now, we're headed down the exact same path. And if people aren't vocal as individuals and businesses, we're not going to pull back from this. And, we like to think we're so, so progressed as a society, but if we're really still think it's an option to not approve of somebody's gay lifestyle, or to not recognize that, The Handmaid's Tale is not just a made up story. It's based off the lives of Black women. And it's people need to kind of wake up. And it's, people need to do better. And you can really see it this month during Pride, because I think breweries are, either ready to step up and do something, or on one hand, breweries are scared of being performative now too, because they know they're going to get called out on it. So, which is good, you've gotten rid of some of the rainbow washing, but there's still a lot of, it's been a quiet, weird June compared to other ones. I know Ren's been very vocal about that on her platform. So,
Yes, she has.
yeah, I get where she comes from now. It's funny, like occasionally somebody will be like, don't you think she's a bit angry? And I'm like, oh, she's way too nice. Like, and spending so much time with her and watching some of the stuff that happened at Mellow Fest, like, and I just cannot believe how incredibly patient that woman was. And a Mellow Fest, that's not on the brewery. The festival was amazing. It was some of the dudes just being idiots and not realizing they were to Ren, and just how incredibly polite she is.
Yes, she is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to having her back on the show when her life sort of slows down a little bit.
It's been crazy lately. She's become,
I message her at the beginning of every month and go, is it time? And if she tells me no, okay, I'll call you next month.
Yeah, she's learning to cordon off and section a bit better. And she is, during stories, there's a lot going on in my personal life and in life in general. And she was the one every night at 11 o'clock to send me a message and check in and say, I love you. And she's a pretty stellar person, but we bounce back and forth pretty much daily now. And she's starting to teach me, but she really needs to, she's learning to take some time for herself, because it's amazing how much people put on her plate. It's crazy what she does.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's, I'm glad to hear that she's learning to take some time for herself.
A little bit. A little tiny bit.
Sometime.
Yeah.
I'm going to move to Wait So Long.
Perfect. So Wait So Long was also a collab. It's funny, we don't do a whole ton of collabs, and my next beer is also a collab. But it was a collab with Victor North. So everybody's probably heard that story. He was the guy who got me into brewing. So it was his homebrew that got me starting to homebrew. He now teaches at the college. He opened Garden Brewers. They did some super cool, very different beers. Wait So Long, because all of our stouts are named after songs. And Wait So Long is a Trampled by Turtles song that we both liked. And it took forever. We've been planning this collab for years. And it is a tropical stout, or a foreign export stout. So brewed intentionally for the Caribbean population in the Toronto region, just to kind of put it out there that, we have so many other markets we could be appealing to rather than just the white market. And it does work. We actually do have a good chunk of Caribbean people come into the brewery now to purchase this beer. So it was a lot of fun to make. And I love this style. Like, I could live off of Dragon Stout. So a little bit sweet, but very, very clean in the finish. A little bit of chocolate. A lot of chocolate, touch of coffee, a little bit of sweetness, meant to be drank in the warm summer months. So finishes pretty clean and tight, and you can really go through it.
That's interesting that you would brew a stout for the summer months.
Yeah, well, they started in Jamaica, right? And if you go, a fun fact, if you go to Universal Studios, I'm a huge Harry Potter freak. I love Harry Potter. So we've been to Harry Potter World twice with the kiddos. And if you order their Dragon Stout out there, or it's not the Dragon Stout, it's the Wizard Stout. It's Dragon Stout, so it's foreign export stout.
What's the most important life lesson you've learned?
Stand up for yourself. To trust your instincts and trust your gut, and to not shovel shit.
Every one of those words are sound advice.
Yeah, I think, especially in the beer industry, and it can hit multiple layers, whether it's because of inexperience or really wanting to get into a career field or something else and worried that you're not qualified, so you shovel more. or the sexism women experience in beer and construction everywhere, that are always silenced and told you're imagining things, and start gaslighting themselves because they can't figure out what they even really are experiencing anymore. And yeah, I've still finding it for a very vocal, very loud person. Some I can nobody's all that self-assured, right? So
Yeah.
but learning to trust yourself.
Yeah. How's your routine changed over the last 18 months?
Routine in terms of, in what way?
How things go at the brewery, the transitions back and forth into your personal life.
Yeah, the all over the place. Things are just kind of finally sinking in again. It had been a wild few months just with everything going on, and then breaking my foot and losing the ability to run, which is like how I keep myself sane. Going into denial and running and working on a broken foot for a month because I didn't want to have to deal with the fact that I'd broken it. So slowly, and I just kind of lost the question. There's COVID brain right there. How are things going back into rhythm? That was
What's your routine like now? How's it changed?
uh
Has it changed?
I think I've had to back off on the sports a bit. I've backed off a little bit on the free time. I've had to tighten up in terms of priorities being work and my charity work. So I've definitely found that I'm putting much more time in on that side. So easing up on the hobby stuff a bit. So, but finding more balance at the brewery too. So I'm going to start taking on a little bit less. So the routine now has, my different components of the brewery doing more and taking on their roles. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm still kind of in a weird state where I'm kind of sorting routine and rhythm and everyday stuff out. So I, not shockingly, after everything that went on, I see a therapist on a regular basis right now. Just to kind of off gas that few months. And today was the first day I was like, I think I feel like me again and I can figure this out. So yeah, just trying to still finding rhythm, really, I think.
I'm glad that you're looking after yourself. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I am shocked. I did not realize you had broken your foot.
Yeah, I guess, it's funny, like there's a lot of stuff on my feed about chickens and the stories, but there's a lot of stuff that doesn't go up there too. Yeah, it was a stress fracture that I was skiing with my kids, and it was the very last hill of the year, and it was a race course, and they were flying, and I was like, I'm just gonna go for it. And my 42-year-old body, I was like, I wonder what happens if I fall at this speed. And somebody went zipping past me. And I looked back and I hit a jump. And my son was super impressed because at the bottom of the hill, he's like, your skis went right over your head. So I don't know how I did it, but when I landed, I guess the force hit the side of my foot and stress fractured my fifth metatarsal. And it felt funny. I have really high pain tolerance, like crazy high pain tolerance. I kept running and kept going until I couldn't kind of deny it anymore. And then I went and got a bone scan done. And it snapped my fifth metatarsal. So it took a little while to heal that puppy because I can't come off my feet. So.
Yes, it does. I did
Yeah.
it in Montreal.
Oh, they suck, right?
Oh, it's terrible. But
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that your son didn't have a video of that beautiful jump that you did.
I know. Even he said, he's like, that really sucks because we could have been rich on YouTube. Oh, I definitely never want to fall like that ever again as long as I live. You do not bounce at this age.
Yeah. Jen says it's worth it if it looks cool to your kids when you do something like that.
Yeah, I'm so klutzy. So yeah, I've broken a lot of bones.
I just like that juxtaposition. I'm thinking, what would happen if I fell at this speed and then somebody went by me?
I couldn't believe I actually went down. There was like, I had time in air to think, oh shit, I'm gonna die. Oh.
So are you able to go back to running now, or?
Yeah, actually last week I was able to run for the first time, and it's pretty funny, I've had to, with everything I've done, it's been a lot of stress on the people who work with me too. And we've had to have some sit downs and make sure that they're not, bearing too much weight and that everything feels sane for them too. My cellarman, Mark, when I started running again last week, like 3 days in, he's like, "Oh, you really are better when you're running, eh?" Thanks. Yeah, it's nice to be back on the treadmill.
Yeah, I can hear you on that. I'm not sure because I didn't go back over my notes from the last time we chatted. Have I ever asked you what your funniest beer story is?
I don't think so. I don't think I've ever asked that question. My funniest beer story. I'm trying to think of what would be a funny beer story.
The thing that you do where you just go, oh man, that was like a rookie thing and I should have known better.
Oh, I do that, something like that every week. Oh my God, it's me trying to get the carb right every single time we can. It's embarrassing. It's just bad. I don't know. Like, I make mistakes constantly.
Okay. I do remember the first time I came to pick up beer, you were cleaning up because you hadn't gotten one coupler done properly.
Yeah, that was after John went. I ripped apart the entire brewery, and I'd never put together all the housing underneath a brew house. And you have to wrench tighten that stuff or you end up with beer everywhere. So that was, or the time where, like, talk about an idiot mistake, when I was closing off the valves in case I had a sight glass breakage on my bright tank. And I'd been closing off the wrong one the entire time. And not that the sight glass should have broken, which is kind of sad that it did, but it did break overnight. And I lost 1,000 liters of beer into my neighbor's space. Oh, that was really painful. It was my birthday. That sucked.
Yep. Sure, your neighbor was impressed too.
Oh, they don't like us to begin with. So it was really bad. It was really bad. You would think a bunch of car mechanics would love us, but they do not. Oh, life. Oh, and last time I collab brewed, I forgot to close the valve on my kettle. And it was one of my friends, Fearless Fred. And we're chatting, and he's like, "It's taking a long time to fill the kettle." And I'm like, "It really is." I stop and I'm like, and I look, and the drain is full. So I'd been losing all the wort for the first half hour. It's a little embarrassing. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, rookie mistakes.
Always when you're being watched, right?
We put in a pipeline milker system when I was a teenager. My dad wanted life to be a little bit easier milking the cows. There was one piece that had to actually be taken off of everything. It was a Pyrex glass elbow. You had to take it off and you had to scrub it by hand to get the milk stone out of it. Same as, like, protein buildup in beer. Make sure you don't get protein buildup in the sight glass. It's a glass elbow. The most expensive piece of equipment that you ever have to touch. I have done this now at least 400 times, and my mom's in the barn with me, and she goes, "You be careful with that. You break it. It's expensive." And I turned and I said, "Mom, I have done this." And before I could say 400 times, I walked in and caught the corner of something and broke it.
Every time.
See, I told you.
Yeah, it sounds like something I would do.
And just like, oh gosh. And if she hadn't talked to me, I would not have done it ever. Erin, it's been fantastic chatting with you again. I love the fact that you're so willing to come back on the show. I really appreciate it. Thank you for giving us the gift of your time tonight and sharing the stories with us.
Always fun to come back. I'm always happy to chat. So